Jingle Jangle: A Christmas Journey was certainly a roller coaster ride. Ultimately, though, it's a film that I really enjoyed. This was released originally in 2020. It's currently on Netflix. It seemed to be getting a lot of attention, so I thought I'd check it out and see what it was like. And there are some things that I didn't necessarily agree with as being good ideas, but ultimately, it was good fun with a really beautiful message about the power of believing and in Christmas magic. So I'll read the description from IMDb. This is written and directed by David E. Talbert, FYI, and the description is as follows. An imaginary world comes to life in a holiday tale of an eccentric toymaker, his adventurous granddaughter, and a magical invention that has the power to change their lives forever. Now that is true, but it's also not. Because something happens quite early on. We're introduced to Jeronicus, played by Forrest Whitaker, and also Justin Cornwell as well, who plays Jeronicus when he was younger. We're introduced to the character, we're told all about him, we get to learn that he's a toymaker, he's got this fantastic zest for life, this brilliant personality, very engaging, and then something happens. And the thing that happens was unexpected. I didn't expect this to happen, and it was a lot darker, a lot more dark than I expected, or darker than I expected quite quickly. And suddenly, Jeronicus loses his zest for life. We flash forward many years into the future, where his daughter now has her own daughter called Journey. Journey goes to stay with her grandfather, Jeronicus. He owns the toy shop is now a pawn shop, and he basically denies that he was ever a toy maker or this brilliant inventor. But with Journey's help, there is the chance that he will regain the belief in his own creations, and the belief in the power of magic and of belief itself. It's quite sweet. I like the narrative. There was a time where I thought, mainly after the kind of big reveal thing happened at the beginning, I think it went a little bit too depressing too quickly, and it obviously had to happen then in order for the narrative to play out as it did. But I kind of lost interest for a little bit until Journey came along into his life. I love her name, and it's up to her to try and restore Jeronicus's faith in his own abilities and faith in belief. There's also a lovely message in this about, being different, and just because you see things in a way that other people don't, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when you stop seeing those things, and I think that that's a lovely message. For the most part, you could read into it some other ways, but I really, really thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of it. Visually, absolutely stunning, some beautiful special effects. The toy shop at the beginning, when it's still a toy shop or whatever it was, magic, marvelous, wonderful world of inventions, is stunning. The sets are absolutely gorgeous. I'm not 100% sure when this was set. I'm gonna say late 19th century, early 20th. I'm not sure if we were ever told exactly, but certainly the settings, the set designs are realistic and gorgeous. The atmosphere is realistic for a children's film. It's not full of, dirt and soot and smog and the real working town atmosphere of the late 19th century. But the costumes are gorgeous as well. Everything about it is visually stunning. And as I said, the narrative itself is likable. It's enjoyable. Once it gets going, I thought it was pretty great. I will say, I feel like the character, how much can I say? Okay, the character of Gustafson, I thought, was underplayed and not what I'd hoped for. So there are certain characters in this who I think were not well written. While they're prominent to the story, though, they don't feature that much, so it's not that much of a problem. But the point I'm trying to make is it's not perfect. It's certainly left some gaps. We don't really know enough about why his daughter, Jessica, went away to live her own life. I mean, obviously we know why, because she grew up, but I feel like they could have done a bit more about that, spent a bit more time explaining it. But ultimately, all of those things are fine. They work well. The bit that I wasn't expecting, the musical elements. And there are two parts of the musical aspect that I liked, but the rest of it felt out of place. For the most part, the choreography's good, the vocals are good, but the songs themselves are relatively unmemorable, not that exciting. The sequences weren't that great. The actual choreography, step by step, was good, but the way the camera kind of filmed it, I thought just felt kind of chaotic and not very engaging. And also, a lot of the times when the characters broke into song, it just didn't feel like the right time for a musical number. And this is coming from somebody who is a big musical fan and will always welcome musicals. The only two aspects I did like, well, first of all, I loved the point where Jeronicus just kind of looks and goes, background dancers? Because one of the characters breaks into song, and then the next thing we know, there are background dancers piling into the shop. And I like that kind of almost breaking the fourth wall, acknowledging the fact that this is not a normal thing. And Madalen Mills, who is Journey, has the most beautiful singing voice. And I actually liked her songs. She has a couple of solo songs, and they were genuinely engaging and ones that I would actively listen to. So while for the most part the musical aspect I thought was actually not well done, her aspect of it was absolutely stunning. And I will definitely check out the soundtrack just to listen to her songs, but I might also listen to the other tracks in isolation and see how I feel about them when I'm not, when I don't have the visuals on screen as well. Would I recommend it? Yes. It is a beautiful creation, very artistic, mostly very well shot, beautiful message, gorgeous costumes, lovely scenery. It's not perfect. There are things that need to be tightened up. There are things that are not the best developed. And as I said, the musical aspects, not the greatest. But ultimately, worth watching if you're in the mood for a fun, family-friendly Christmas film. Head to Netflix, watch Jingle Jangle. It's one that I would probably watch again at some point.